Hello folks, BlackCross here, and welcome to another entry into Just a Thought. Now, again, I just wanted to start the series just to talk about anything I wanted to and everything like that. Something that either wouldn't eventually get brought up into the podcast and stuff like that because we don't really upload it that many times within a month or anything like that. So I figured, you know what, just create a Just a Thought series. And today's Just a Thought is a new news came out about a week ago, if not maybe a little bit over a week ago. And it is that Caroll Spinney. Now, if you don't know who Caroll Spinney is, he is basically the puppeteer actor for Big Bird, Oscar, and Grouch. Basically the known actor that's been around of Sesame Street ever since the beginning. Talking about a man who has been with Sesame Street ever since its early days, literally whenever it started and stuff. And so it's interesting because as of October 17th, I believe is the date that he started to retire, or at least it's been first announced, I don't remember, but it's basically stated that Caroll Spinney has retired. He has officially retired as Big Bird, as Oscar the Grouch. He's basically retiring from doing Sesame Street entirely. And keep in mind, Sesame Street has been around for 50 years, which means he himself, as a puppeteer, has been doing it for 50 years. Now, I want to encourage people to look up a particular documentary about Caroll Spinney, Big Bird. Basically, it tells about his entire life, it tells about what he's been doing up until this point and everything, and you'll enjoy it. I promise you, you will enjoy the fun fact about Caroll Spinney as a performer. And I would argue that I respect the man more than anything as a performer. But you also gotta remember too, 50 years of doing the same puppeteering work. We're talking Big Bird here, okay? Yes, he does Oscar and everything like that, but when you think about Big Bird, he actually wears the suit. For those that don't know, and for those that are unaware, for any big puppeteer character, like Big Bird, Sweetums, and characters like that, the puppeteer actually wears the outfit itself. They have their hand above their head and they're moving it with their hands and stuff, sort of like this, as you can clearly see. And then they're using their hand to control the other hand itself. And there is no, as you'll probably notice, there are very rare cases where you see both hands being functional. You only see one hand and the other one being used for the mouth. And in Caroll Spinney's case, whenever he was performing as Big Bird, if you're not familiar with the Muppets or anything like that, you should definitely look up a documentary or two about them, because what they do is that they do the puppet work and everything like so, where they actually control the puppet and they control the arms like so, with like a little stick or something that controls their arms and everything like that. And then, as they're doing it, they're looking down on a screen that projects everything that's going on. So in other words, they see where the character is going, they know the action that it's going to do, and everything like that. Caroll Spinney actually carries the actual screen with him as he's performing Big Bird. So the screen is right here, the mic's right here, he's got his arm in Big Bird's beak. And keep in mind, Big Bird's a tall character. Probably not the tallest one they have, but he's pretty big. So his arm is stretching as far as he can possibly humanly go. And then you have the other arm that's doing the normal work and stuff. You have got to think that eventually, over an amount of time, holding your arm like this for an extensive amount of time, it's going to hurt. In fact, I imagine that he has probably had to have surgery for that arm at least twice in his life. I want to say at least twice. I may be wrong. I'm willing to admit to be wrong on that one. But he had to have developed carpal tunnel of some kind. or at least major arthritis. Okay, we're talking like strenuous, continuous work. And 50 years. He may have not done it all the time, but he did it enough times to where it was effectively. Now, of course, they also have the fact that they have a stand-in, which I'm going to real quickly look up his name because I don't remember exactly what his name is. Big Bird actor. Let's take a look here. Big Bird. Let's see. Who is Big Bird performed by? Created by. Portrayed by. Yeah. Caroll Spinney and Matt Vogel. Vogel. I may have mispronounced that. I do apologize. But Matt Vogel is the current performer for Big Bird as of right now. And he's been doing this since 1998. So literally, let's see, 1998, this is 2018, so 20 years. He's been doing it for 20 years. He's been the stand-in for Big Bird. He's been the stand-in for Big Bird. In other words, whenever Caroll Spinney isn't able to perform as Big Bird through hand motions and stuff, Matt will take over from there. Now, Wikipedia, for some reason, it shows here that Caroll Spinney has performed Big Bird since 1969, which is probably correct, but it says here that he stopped performing as Big Bird as 2015. Now, that's just 3 years off compared to him retiring as of this year. So, chances are it might be correct, or it might not be. Maybe Caroll did perform as Big Bird within, like, few times. Maybe that was, like, the decline. Like, sure, in the year 2000 or something like that, he started to have a decline, and then Matt decided to take up more as Big Bird. And as the years went on, Matt did more and more of Big Bird, and Caroll did less and less due to his physical condition of not being able to perform as Big Bird. And so it may be true. Maybe he stopped being Big Bird for at 2015 and basically stayed as like a coach for Big Bird, for the past 3 years now. And maybe after 3 years of coaching, he decided, okay, he's got this. He's got the character Big Bird down perfectly. I can retire. And I think that's probably what it is. And I think for Caroll, he probably didn't want to quit. He probably didn't want to give up performing Big Bird. In fact, I thought after watching the documentary, again, you should totally watch that. I actually thought that Caroll would probably stay on the team until his ultimate end. Like, I literally thought he'd be one of those performers that would stay with the group until he literally dies. There are people out there that do stay with their jobs until they eventually die. And that's only because they love their job that much. And for a place like Sesame Street, for a person like Caroll Spinney to perform as Big Bird, I don't think it's a bigger honor than anything. I think he really loved it to his true heart. It's just as he continued to grow older, it became harder and harder for him to do the job as he would have liked to have. And I'm sure if he had the ability to keep his body in perfect condition, and keep in mind, that's not always the case, but if he learned a secret of how to keep his body in perfect tier condition, I would not doubt in my mind that he would stay as Big Bird. He probably would have stayed as Big Bird for as long as he possibly could. Again, I'm willing to be wrong on this one, but from judging by his character, I say Caroll would wanted to stay with Sesame Street for as long as he possibly could. But due to the fact of his physical condition, he thought to himself, I can just retire and just live the rest of my life as just a regular person. And I may be wrong. I'm going to look it up real quickly, but Caroll Spinney is married. I do want to go ahead and kind of see who he's married to, though, per se. Let's see. Spouses. Yeah, his current married woman is Jean Gilroy. I do apologize if I mispronounced your name too, but it's Jean Gilroy. And as of right now, from the way it looks here, it says 1997. So, actually, let me rephrase the name. It is actually Deborah Jean Gilroy. That's her full name, technically. Deborah Jean Gilroy. And it says here, married since 1979, and unless they don't have it labeled, she is probably still alive right now. So I think they both want to live out their days as just old, retired, married couple, and they just want to live the rest of their lives as such. And I think that's probably what it pins down to. Again, I'm going to try looking into this. I may be wrong. Yeah, she is. I think she's still alive. Yeah, Deborah is still alive, technically. She is still alive, and both her and Caroll, from the way it sounds like they are very happy with their marriage right now. For those that don't know, Caroll had been married previously before this one, but got divorced, but has been married to Deborah for quite some time, so they are very happy together right now. Anyway, I'm sure it's rough for the team right now, giving up a potential family member, for that matter. Keep in mind, 50 years, you might as well say it's a family. 50 years of doing Big Bird. 50 years of doing Oscar the Grouch. 50 years of working with Jim Henson, working with Sesame Street. We're talking about a man who literally knew Jim himself, who knew what he was and what his ambitious ideal could have been. We also know that he has been with the company for so long, he has seen how Jim Henson Incorporation has evolved since then. And I'm sure there was a bunch of problems that was going on behind the scenes that we aren't really familiar with ourselves right now. I know that with Disney purchasing the Muppets, and of course, I think it's, is it ABC? I may be wrong, but I think it's ABC that owns, no, PBS, my bad, PBS. I completely, it's been a long time since I've watched Sesame Street, so I have no idea who owns it technically, but PBS is on PBS in terms of when it's aired and stuff like that, so, that being said, and I will argue with the fact that there are some complications that they go through when it comes to developing Sesame Street and the Muppets and stuff. And I'm sure Caroll Spinney has seen so much that he could probably tell a deep description of the future of everything. He could probably summarize it in one sentence if he had to. In fact, if he felt like he could probably describe it in one word. What that one word is, or what that one sentence is, we don't know. In fact, if I had the ability to, which, holy shit, it would be freaking amazing. I would have to pull Delmar for this one. But if I could talk to Caroll Spinney right now, that would be what I would ask him. I'd be like, in either one sentence or one word, could you describe the shape that both Sesame Street and the Muppets, or Jim Henson entirely, could you describe the shape that it's in? He would probably say it's a little bit unsure of itself. And I think that's probably the correct term to use right now. I may be completely wrong. For those that do work with them and stuff like that, if you want to talk about it, please talk about it with me. I'll be glad to bring out the word for you and stuff like that. But it's just, yeah, it's a little bit unassuring right now. But due to the recent showing of, my brother and I usually look up stuff every now and then. But there was this Sesame Street skit that they had called The Game of Chairs. And if you don't know, that's basically a parody for the Game of Thrones. I don't know anything about Game of Thrones. I have not seen anything, but I get the jokes. So to watch that little bit, you should totally look that up. It's The Game of Chairs, Sesame Street. It is literally hilarious. Admittedly, it's kind of hard to watch considering I'm an adult, so therefore seeing them counting the chairs and counting the people that are left and stuff like that, it's a little bit rough to watch because you're already outgrown all that, but I'm sure for a child they can enjoy stuff like that. But the jokes that they make for the individual characters and stuff, it's beautiful. I would argue with the fact that it's almost Mighty Python glory It's basically Mighty Python for children. That's the perfect way to say it. It's Mighty Python for children. It is not outrageously overrated or anything like that. It's perfect for a child, but even adults could watch it. I would argue that this is probably the best I've seen in a while, and I'm sure there'll probably be more in the future, but even still, I think Sesame Street has a longer ways to go. It's been around for 50 years, and for a corporation like them, I think they can keep going for a little bit longer if they wanted to. And so it'll be interesting just to see that Sesame Street would continue on. It'd be funny just to grow older and older, only to hear that Sesame Street has hit 75 years. Sesame Street has hit 100 years. It's insane to think that now, but it's not that far of a stretch considering Disney has celebrated 90 years of Mickey Mouse. 90 years! That's insane, but that's for another topic for another day probably. But anyway though, that's just a thought that I had involving Caroll Spinney. To you, Caroll Spinney, I hope you have a wonderful rest of life, a wonderful retirement. You have been a wonderful person. I wish I could have met you in person myself, but I understand that you were fairly busy and stuff. But thank you so much for being Big Bird in general. And for Matt Volgan, I hope you have as much benefits as you have. I'm sure you enjoy playing as Big Bird and stuff. I wish you the best of luck. And for everyone that's on the Sesame Street team, I wish you nothing but good health and good gosh, I don't even know how to finish that off. Good health and good prosperity. I think that's the word I should say. So, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. This is BlackCross signing off with just the thought. Take care, guys.